Nobody wants to be in the business of convincing people to invest, convincing people to buy. You've got people watching, you've got people engaging, you've got people circling, but you don't have that translating into clients or customers. It's about the fact that you have not created demand within your audience. You have only put a call to action up and called it selling. We want our marketing to have someone already knowing, this is a problem I have, this is a problem I want to solve, this is a problem I want to solve with her and with her service. If I was ever going to take notes, it'd be on this section. Okay. The reason someone will consume you and never buy from you is because you're telling them what, but you're never telling them why. If you do not have demand and your competitor does, over the next 3 years, your competitor will do 2 to 4 times the amount of sales that you will, simply based on the fact that we don't know how to create demand. When you can solidify demand, then you honestly have a much easier time. I'm talking almost effortless when it comes to selling, because you're not hoping people want it, you know they want it. You will see people going from, this is so helpful, to how do I work with you? This is what happens when you create demand. Hello and welcome back to Ambitious. Today, we are talking about something that every business has to master if you are somebody who wants to see consistent and scalable sales inside of your business. Have you ever felt like you can sell a lot of spots into a service, an offer, a program when you're in the middle of a promotion, when you're in the middle of a launch, maybe you're in the middle of something like a Black Friday, and you feel like in these peak moments of promotion that you can sell tons of spots into your service? Or maybe you feel like you need a discount or you need a limited time offer or limited spots available. And only then, when you do those different tactics, do you actually start to see your offer move. Well, the question becomes, if I asked you, could you consistently sell out your offer without needing to add some of those different tactics? Could you? And if your confidence level falls at anything under, I'm 90% confident that I could do that, or 100% confident, then that's why I want you to really pay attention to what we're going to be talking about today, which is all about how to create intentional, consistent demand for your offers. One of the things that so many business owners come to me with is the fact that they don't want to have to launch. They don't want to have to offer a discount or say 3 spots only when they're like, I kind of actually have 13 spots, 30 spots that I could enroll into this. And there starts to become this question of, well, if I don't do those, my offer just doesn't sell. And I don't know how to create interest and demand in my offer without using those tactics. And so that is what I want to teach you. So today we're going to be going through a couple different things. I'm going to explain first what it really means and what it really looks like to have offer demand, meaning people wanting and looking for and seeking for your offer day in, day out, without you necessarily needing to launch. We're also going to go through what I consider to be the 4 demand killers, meaning things that you may be doing in your current offer, in your current marketing, in your current approach that actually could be decreasing your demand versus increasing it. And I'm also going to be teaching you what I consider to be like demand structure framework, which is really the core ingredients that you're going to want to make sure that you have in your marketing as much as possible to maintain and increase your overall offer demand. So with all this being said, let's get into it. So first, we should start off with what demand actually is, right? Because many of us think about when we create an offer, we all know as business owners, and frankly, as anybody who's ever created any product or service anywhere, the basis of something you'll hear often is this classic phrase of supply and demand. And so many of us as online services are really excited to create something, which is, i.e., the supply. You have this cool new offer that you want to create, or you maybe see this new experience that you're like, man, I could really help my clients to be able to do A, B, C, but I don't have an offer for that. So I'm going to go make an offer for that. And that's going to be the thing that we launch. And so what you do is you focus so much on the supply. You focus on the cool idea you have, the thing that you feel like nobody's doing in the market, and you really nerd out on what is my next offer going to be. But the thing that many people don't ask themselves, which is actually probably one of the most important things to any offer that you create actually doing well, is, do you actually have demand? And is the thing that you're so excited to create actually something that is in demand with your audience or in demand with your market. And so, one of the things I look to ensure anytime I'm helping a business and they want to come up with something new is to say, are we doing this because we're really nerding out on, oh, I really want to supply this to people because it's what I love? Or are we doing this because we feel like we have determined that there is a demand for this kind of offer, that people are asking for this, they need it, they want it, I've got data to back this up. And when you can solidify demand, then you honestly have a much easier time. I'm talking almost effortless when it comes to selling the offer, the service that you created. And that's because you're not hoping people want it, you know they want it. You're not hoping people need it, you know they need it. And that's really a core ingredient on anything you make. It does not matter the price tag, the deliverables, the features of what it comes with, you must have demand. So the question is, when creating an offer, do we have demand? But the most important thing when scaling the business, so not just creating it, but scaling it, maintaining that consistent income, that consistent revenue time after time, is how do we ensure that we don't only look to confirm demand when we create something, but how do we ensure that we actually sustain demand? Meaning that we are creating constant people wanting to solve this problem, constant people interested in, yes, I need this and I need it now. And so that's what we're going to be talking about today. So if you are someone who feels like your demand or the level of interest that you have in a given service or offer is there and then it's not, it's often because you have probably in your mind classified demand as something that's more of a event more than it actually is an ecosystem. Okay. So many of us think, okay, I'm going to create a lot of people who want this offer, a lot of people who are interested in this. And I'm going to use a campaign, an event, a launch, a promotion to facilitate that. But what we really want to be doing is we want to create an ecosystem. We want to create that same energy that you have during a limited spots available or during, the time where you've got countdowns on your emails. We want to create the exact same experience every single day within your marketing. And so many of us then go to the question of, well, how do I do that? And so what we want to first look at is what we might perceive to be the look of demand, right? If you put bait into the water and you see lots of fish, you could perceive there's lots of demand, meaning that I have this supply of my bait and there's thousands of fish that are surrounding this bait. That's how some people perceive demand, which is the fact that there's general people that are surrounding it. So, of course, people want it. Here's the thing. If you don't have the right bait, you actually will never get a fish to bite on it. And so this means that if you have this thing that you put out to your audience, visibility, meaning just sheer numbers of people, are not the equivalent of demand. Demand is actually a matter of people being bought in, people being interested, people taking a bite at what bait you've put into your marketing or into the online ecosystem. So they really are two different things. And so demand is really when your audience basically has already decided before the sales process that they know that they want what you're offering. And this is something that everybody wants, right? Every single person that I talk to, regardless of the size of business, is like, I want people who come in pre-sold. I want people who already know that they want to work with me, who know that they're ready to move. That's who I want to be working with. And all of us want that. But we, again, have this question of, well, how do I create that? So one of the ways we're going to talk about today is actually how to use your marketing to establish that. And that's because your content's job is to make people feel so seen, so acknowledged, to feel so activated from what you're putting out that your offer, your sale, if you will, is something that doesn't feel like we're convincing them to buy from us. We're not trying to get them to say, like, see, this is why you should work with me. We want our marketing to have someone already knowing, this is a problem I have. This is a problem I want to solve. This is a problem I want to solve with her. And this is a problem I want to solve with her and with her service. So that when they inquire, you feel like you're more answering any questions they might have or simply guiding them to taking that next step versus feeling like we're convincing people. Nobody wants to be in the business of convincing people to invest, convincing people to buy. And so there's actually a McKinsey study that basically talks about the fact that brands that maintain consistent demand throughout marketing, meaning that they don't just rely on spikes, they don't rely on just a launch twice a year, they don't rely on just a campaign once in a while. The people that are having consistent, sustainable demand actually outperform on revenue because they do 2 to 4 times the level of revenue of their competitors who haven't mastered demand. Let me just reinstate that for you. If you do not have demand and your competitor does, over the next 3 years, your competitor will do 2 to 4 times the amount of sales that you will, simply based on the fact that we don't know how to create demand, which is why this is so important for us to learn. And I want to also break the fourth wall here for a second as to why this is. I myself, I don't know if you feel like this, but there's so many people on the internet who have beliefs about everything. Everybody has a perspective about something. Everyone says, this is the thing that matters and this is the thing that you should care about. And I don't know about you, but I feel like for me, I go to, I feel like everyone says, this is the one thing you need, right? So when I hear that or when I see that, I sometimes go to myself, okay, tell me the facts. And I feel like from a data perspective, I'm a nerd in that bucket because I like to have evidence. I like to have facts to reinforce what I feel like matters in business. And so the reason I share these stats with you, by the way, on any episode you've ever listened to on Ambitious is for that reason, because I want you to know this is not just me, Kate, telling you that this matters. There are large businesses. There are massive studies of businesses, of entrepreneurs, of startup companies that literally validate how important this is. HubSpot, also very popular, that many of you guys know about. HubSpot also did a study, and it quoted in an article, 95% of your audience is not ready to buy at any given moment. 95%. Okay? 95%. We're going to come back to this. If all your content is value or pitch, it means that you are ignoring the 95% who need to be moved into a buying position, meaning that they need to be shifted as a result of increasing demand. So what this means is I think a lot of us, when we go into our marketing or we frankly put out any marketing online, we have this belief that, of course, well, if people are following me, they want to buy from me. Of course, if they're following me, they want to invest with me. And they may see you as credible. They may see you as an authority. They may see you as somebody that they think is really knowledgeable, but that doesn't necessarily mean or equal to the fact that they're ready to spend, that they're ready to invest. And so what we want to talk about today is the fact that we need to look at demand as a daily practice, not a launch strategy. Okay. So demand is a daily practice. It is not a launch strategy. And a lot of us will talk about with marketing, these things that we need to do every day, every week, consistently within our marketing. And so I want you to put demand at the top of your list, saying, when I am marketing day to day, week to week, do I feel like I am doing what I need to be doing to create consistent demand? And if you haven't, or you're not sure if you have, I want to break down today, what are the 4 demand killers? And really, frankly, what are the core things that are going to decrease or kind of remove demand? And I also want to give you something you can tangibly do within your marketing that will help you to actually generate and create demand. So first, let's look at the things that we don't want to be doing, okay? The things we want to be avoiding in our marketing, generally speaking, if we want to be creating more demand. So this is one of the things that I see a lot of, and I feel like I'm constantly reminding people of this, which is what I consider to be kind of the proof plateau, which is the fact that you have wins. You have testimonials. You may even have just things that clients have shared. Think about a meeting you've been on where a client said, hey, also want to tell you about a win I had. Or you have a client that says, hey, wanted to send you this screenshot of something that's happened for us. Or, hey, I love working with you and with your team for the following reason, right? So we have these insights from our clients, these little moments of proof. And what I ultimately see a lot of people doing is they just share results. They just share the end destination. Say your offer is helping someone to lose 10 pounds. You're like, see, this person lost 10 pounds. Or for me in the business space, you probably see this more than ever in the business space. People will say, I help people to get to seven figures. This client got to seven figures. That client got to here. And it's all about where they ended up. And so it leads people when you only show where they ended up or what result they generated. It has people going from, wow, that's incredible for them, or that's so cool for them, versus where we want to have them be from a perspective, which is, I need to get inside that offer. I need to understand what they're doing. I need to get access to that information. I need to be inside those conversations, inside of that room. That is something I need to be part of. So I want you to think first that with any kind of social proof or any kind of proof at all of your offer, of your service, demand is actually what lives between the gap of where she is and where your offer or service is going to take her. I don't think nearly enough people, and maybe even for you, you're thinking, oh, well, I don't really talk about their before state that much. I talk about where I got them. I want you to think about, how often have you marketed where they were? How often have you marketed the process of their becoming into that version that the person ultimately wants? That is just as important. And so what we want to do is we want to lead with someone's current state first. You want to make people feel completely seen, completely acknowledged, and to see themselves within what you're posting or within your marketing, whether this is through social media, email, blog, podcast, it doesn't matter delivery. You have to make sure that people feel seen in the current state first before you ever show the win. And the reason being is, many of us can see a win of something that someone's established and we go, yeah, well, that's nice for her. That's great for her. She gets this outcome, or she's been able to achieve that, but she doesn't know what I'm dealing with. She doesn't know about the fact that I'm a mom who's got limited hours. She probably had excess money to spend on this, or she probably had more time than I do. We can make up all of these reasons to not connect to the social proof that you're sharing simply based off the fact that you never shared the before state. So, one of the things that's really important with showcasing and creating demand is helping people to realize that the end destination they want to get to is not only possible for them, but it's also possible because the people who are now there are people who are just like you. And so that's what we have to make sure we're putting into our marketing. Okay. So let's get into what I would consider to be like demand killer number 2, which is what I consider to be the invisible offer. So demand killer number 2 is the fact that you think you are talking about your offer and you're not. You're circling around it. I often ask people on calls, I will say, if I had to ask your audience what the name of each of your offers is by name, could they tell me what the name of it is? And I say, scale of 1 to 10, where's your confidence lie within that? And they'll say something along the lines of maybe like a 2, maybe a 3, right? So I want you to ask yourself right now, if I ask your audience, how many people in your current audience right now could name your offer in detail in the way that you market it? How many people would you say, or what percentage of your audience do you think could actively tell me the name of your offer? And if it's not a high percentage, it likely means that you don't actually have the offer awareness that you think you have. So, with offer awareness, the thing that I want to accentuate with this is that your audience does not have your offer memorized. I can't get over how many people assume that their audience knows the name of their offers. They are able to say them verbatim. They're like, well, I told them it last Tuesday. Or, I had a launch 2 months ago where I was talking about it. You want to realize that the person who's consuming you is also consuming hundreds of other people on the internet who are also promoting and showing off their offers. So if someone can't know what the offer is that you have, how can somebody ask to buy it? And so this is where, again, offer awareness is so important, because if you are somebody who feels like your offer is actually not something your audience knows, it means that we need to be talking more intentionally about it. And there's 2 ways to technically do this. You can be doing this in what I coin or consider to be a more direct selling of your offer, and there's also indirect selling. Meaning, if I say like, hey, I have a 6-month mastermind called ITI Accelerator that is designed to help women to go from 6 figures to multiple 6 and 7 figures during our time together. That's something that's a very direct selling, right? It's a direct mentioning of the offer. Now, let's go to something a little bit more indirect. I might say, I just got off a call with our mastermind IT Accelerator, and all the women inside who are scaling are talking about a really important conversation, which is blank. What I just did is I mentioned the name of the offer, I mentioned what it was, and I also mentioned the kind of avatar that was in it and also what's going on inside. So instead of me promoting the offer, what I've done is I'm seeding the offer indirectly, oftentimes in such a storytelling way that nobody even really knows that I'm mentioning it. But if I was to go a layer deeper, and to break the fourth wall, it means that if I do that in my marketing, if I do that in a storytelling of an email, someone is getting an awareness of, okay, mastermind, 6 months, scaling women, mastermind, 6 months, scaling women. So this is where the offer awareness can be built. So I also want to, if your brain's going to like, well, I don't want to spam people day in and day out with my offer, you actually don't need to. What we're looking to do is make sure that your offer name is something that is visible or that can be made aware to your audience consistently throughout your marketing in one way or another. Again, whether it is direct or indirect. Now, what I consider to be like demand killer number 3 is the fact that you are positioning by features, you are not positioning by the future. I still see a lot of brands, and maybe even you yourself feel like you resonate with this. You talk a lot about the fact that your difference factor could be the level of support that you give or the access to you, the fact that they get calls with you, the fact that they get this like really cool audit that you do, the fact that they get this download that you provide, right? And so we see what we provide as a deliverable and we start to market that believing that that's the thing that is our value. And so when people talk about all the things that they get to do inside of an offer, what I try to accentuate is what they get to do with you is not what they desire, right? Like the features are not what they're buying. They're buying the future state of who they get to become. They're buying the future state of the results that are possible for them. And so no one wakes up thinking, being like, man, I really need Slack access, or like, man, I really need a PDF. Like, I need a module. I need X, whatever it may be. They think about the fact that they are, for me, they're tired of feeling that they're starting over every month. They're tired of feeling like they don't know what buttons to push or what to say in their marketing or their sales to actually get the consistent sales they're looking for. They are annoyed of all of the different types of advice of this is the thing that you need to scale, but then also feeling like none of it's working even when they've tried it. And so when we talk about features, it means we are basically telling our audience that what we provide as stuff is the reason that they should decide to work with us. Whereas when we talk instead about the future state of where someone's going to be, it means that we help them to tap into that person, to realize that working with us is not about information. It's also about, in addition, stepping into a different identity. You're selling and you're promoting the transformation. You're not promoting the to-do list of the things that they're going to be doing inside. And so, what I tell people when they're looking to market is say, sell the person the future version of themselves that they're buying into your offer, wanting to become. So, ask yourself right now, like, let's just pick one of your offers, okay? So, pick the one that you feel like the most people are investing into, the most momentum has been created with. If we think about that offer and we know that that has a lot of demand, then what we want to ask ourselves is when someone invests into that, what are they actually investing into? Who do they want to become? Where do they want to go? What are they looking to step into? What's the future state that they're hoping to achieve by investing into that offer? And as a second piece, asking yourself, are you consistently painting the picture of who somebody becomes? Are you actually helping people consistently through your marketing to understand the identity that they will step into as a result of working with you? Because most of us just talk about the problems that we solve. We give values of I know this information and the 3 mistakes and the 4 tips, and it's all just information, but it's not really helping her to say, okay, but where am I going to end up? Who am I going to be? What am I going to achieve? And so that's something that by talking about the future and not the features as kind of a principle for you to latch onto, that's something that will really help her to be, okay, that's what I'm getting. That's where I'm going to go if I spend this $10,000, $20,000 with this service. That's the next step of where I'll end up. And so the last of the 4 demand killers is what I consider to be the authority trap. And we kind of, grazed this earlier. Authority means that people trust your expertise. And I want to be really honest and say it directly. You can be somebody that people see as a very intentional, smart, insightful, experienced person. They can be like, oh, that person is really good at what they do. And they may never buy from you. And that is because someone can see you as experienced, but it doesn't necessarily mean that that person sees you as experienced, so much so that they need your offer and they have the belief of why they need it now, which is demand. Okay. So I know that this kind of, most people think, well, if someone sees me as knowledgeable, why wouldn't they invest with me? I want you to ask yourself, how many people do you ever consume that you've never bought from? So maybe you read books, maybe you listen to podcasts, you watch creators online, you save their videos, you watch their YouTube. Think about right now how many people you actively consume that you've never bought from. That's not somebody that you consume because you don't think that they're the expert in what they do. You consume them because you believe that they are the expert in what they do. But you're not buying from them because you don't have from their brand demand in working with them. So, demand is the belief that the person who's consuming you needs your offer right now. This is really a shifting of their belief system, not necessarily making you somebody that they see to be an authority. Okay. So, an authority kind of style of marketing or authority style of content is somebody that says, like, I know what I'm talking about. The goal of this is to showcase that you know your stuff, you know what you're talking about, and you clearly are knowledgeable in what you do. Whereas demand style marketing is really something that looks at here's what matters for your situation right now. Here's what you need to know about your current situation in this moment versus, again, authority, which is the things to be aware of with this topic, right? So one is like helping us, again, you'll notice, to feel seen, to feel acknowledged, to feel shifted in our experience. And the other one is just strictly information. So when we think about looking at, okay, how can we create demand, right? So what are the very specific things that we can do as steps to help us to generate demand in our marketing? If I was ever going to take notes, it'd be on this section. Okay. So I want to either preface, if you want to make a mental note right now for yourself of your notes on your phone of timestamp X to come back to this. These are going to be the different layers of demand. There are 4 different layers of demand, and I want you to think about noting down what some of these are or coming back to this at a later date to do so that you can start to put these into your marketing. And here's what I will tell you. If you start integrating these 4 demand structures into your marketing today, you will see people going from this is so helpful to how do I work with you? You will see people going from liking and saving your content to DMing you and asking about application. Is the offer open? Do you have spots available? And that's because one is getting you people to consume, it's getting people to connect, it's getting people to engage, and the other one is going to get people to convert. Remember, what we're looking to do here is we're looking to create demand with these pieces of marketing, meaning moving someone from a place of being curious to actually becoming our client. That's the intention of these 4 pieces. So as I share these, one of the things I want to preface is that this is not all of your marketing. So I want to also plant that seed with you. I do not want you to have this as the only marketing that you are putting out. And that's because if you are somebody who only does demand focused content or demand focused marketing, you're going to feel like your audience only is getting sold to in every waking moment of the day. And nobody wants that. Nobody wants to be part of an audience where someone's not actually providing value. Nobody wants to be part of an audience that's not actually looking to help and shift something within their audience. The people who blend what I'm about to teach you of these 4 core layers or pillars alongside other marketing for personal brand, for adding value, That's the real secret sauce to having a really well-rounded online marketing that builds community, it builds brand, it builds sales, it builds demand. And I share this because I think sometimes there can be this like siloed belief around marketing, which is like, I need a content calendar, right? Like, I just need to have this goes out on Monday, this goes out on Tuesday, this goes out on Wednesday. And all of us love the rigidity of having a structure. Or sometimes for some businesses, which I've seen, unfortunately, is that they will do some of these demand pieces of marketing. And when they start to do that, they will actually start to see sales come from it. So then what ends up happening is this classic cause and effect where the person has, I pressed this button. Oh my God, last time I pressed that button, I had sales come in. So I'm going to press that button again and then more sales will come in. And then I'm going to press the button again and then more sales will come in. So sometimes when we're not careful, we will end up pressing the sales button over and over and over. But it means that while you, yes, may make more sales, you also may find that you're killing brand, that you are killing your ability to generate community. And that's because the only thing that you're doing is selling. So this is something that I want you to weave into your other marketing that you were doing, not to basically scrap everything else that you're creating and only do this style. Okay. So I want you to picture what I'm about to explain to you almost like we're going to talk about it almost like building a house. Okay. So I think about this like building blocks. So one kind of leads to the other. And that's why we're going to be talking about them in this order. So the first being what I consider to be like the problem narrative, which is really the foundation of your house. You need to spend about 40% more, 50% more time in this bucket. And that means that you're looking to make sure that we're not vocalizing things in the sense of like, for me, it's not like, are you struggling to scale? Because that's like a category of people. People who are struggling to scale is a category of people. What we're looking to do is we want to get so granular on their specific symptoms, the specific moments, the specific experiences, the thoughts, the belief, the things they did that didn't work. And what I tell people, there's actually a framework that we teach in our mastermind. It's called the 4S. And one of the pillars of the 4S framework is literally we help clients to like brain dump and use a structure for messaging. And one of the 4S's is symptoms. And the reason that we have that is because many people when they're marketing say, your problem is blank. Your problem is blank. And you probably heard me mention this on other episodes where I talk about the fact that many people in marketing are kind of diagnosing their audience. So they're saying like, okay, like, you have this problem. This is the source of your issues. But the person who's coming to you is not coming to you for the diagnosis. They're coming to you with symptoms, right? So I don't know about you, if you've ever Googled, what do these symptoms mean? You get this like crazy list of responses of what's wrong with you. What you're doing is your symptoms. You don't know what's wrong with you, but you know what your symptoms are. You're like, I have a fever, I have a cough, I have a headache, I have, chills, I feel like nauseous. You know your symptoms. So if somebody came and said, are you somebody who has nausea? Maybe you have a little bit of like a fever, you've got chills, trouble sleeping, and you're going to be going on and on about these symptoms. You would see a piece like that and be like, oh my God, that's literally me. That's exactly what I'm experiencing. What is this thing? And when we resonate with the symptoms, it's because we actually live and breathe those every day. Your ideal client is sitting in her thoughts, her beliefs, her decisions, her choices, her actions, her environment every single day. So she's not thinking, I'm struggling to scale. She's thinking, I'm opening my Instagram story and I have no idea what to say. Or I'm watching other people online who are also posting carousels and they're crushing, but mine never do anything and I don't know why. And I'm frustrated. That's what she's feeling. She's not feeling, I'm struggling to scale. So when you put into your marketing these diagnoses, right? This like, here's your problem. What it means is it's not actually activating her in any way. It's not actually making her feel seen in the things that she's doing, thinking, believing, or experiencing. And so the reason that this is one of the first exercises we do with every single client that we work with. And that is because many people, when we are in our service of serving clients, we naturally are in diagnosis. So I want you to almost picture yourself like a doctor. You are somebody that is in there and you're like diagnosing person A and then person B. And you're like, you're literally, okay, this is your problem, take this med. This is your problem, take this meds. And you're putting out fires because that's your job. That's what you do. You help people. You get a diagnosis, you get them the medication they need, and you get them on their way. But the person who's not yet invested with you is not somebody who knows what their diagnosis is yet. So when you take your delivery brain, when you take you in your service, you coaching, you in a program, you in a done for you agency, and you're taking the stuff you talk about with clients, what you're doing is you're taking someone with a totally different level of awareness and that conversation, and you're bringing it to your marketing. And the person who's consuming it is like, this doesn't resonate with where I'm at because she isn't there. She's somewhere totally different. So, what we want to do is we want to actually focus on the things that they think, that they feel, that they experience, and that they're going through. I will tell you this. The moment that someone truly believes that you understand their problem at a level that they're like, is she in my house? That it's so clear that you get them and what they're navigating. When you're able to achieve that at a certain level of depth, that person will believe that you are the person to help them to solve it. Why is that? Because the only way that you would know the things that they're thinking, feeling, believing, or doing is if you really understood them at a deep level. And if you understand them at a deep level, they believe, which 99% of the time is true, that you are therefore the person to help them to overcome it. So, what we're looking to do with the problem narrative, i.e., the foundations of this, is that in your weekly, daily, monthly marketing that you're putting out, you must consistently ask yourself, how am I addressing symptoms? And I'm going to just be really honest. I have to audit this for myself all the time because I live in delivery. I live in coaching people, giving them answers, solving problems. So if I don't reset myself and go into marketing with oh, right, different kind of person, oh, right, different level of awareness, then it means that I'm going to be taking the things I say to clients and I'm putting them in my marketing. And so you may feel like you're like, well, Kate, what I talk about with clients, I'm putting in my marketing. So if my clients are struggling with it, then obviously my audience is struggling with it. Yes, they both have the same diagnosis, but the person you're working with didn't know that that was their diagnosis until they first had a chance to explain their symptoms. So, what we need to do in the forward facing marketing, the forward facing content that you're putting out is you have to make sure that you are hitting on these symptoms consistently. So, you are not describing a person, you are describing an experience. Okay, I want to make this very clear. We are not saying if you are the woman struggling to scale, okay, that's a person. We are saying if you are the person who's up at 11 o'clock at night trying to program AI because in order to take more business, you feel like you have to hire more team members, but you don't want to increase your expenses, this is for you, right? So it's very specific of what is she doing? What is her thought process? What are her behaviors? And making her feel seen within those. The more uncomfortably specific that you can get, the better off you're going to be. And here's the thing I want to also tell you. Previous to AI, you needed to sit in a Buddha position and think about, okay, what is my ideal client experience? What is my ideal client thinking through? You don't need to do that anymore. You can use market research. You can use literally scrubbing the online spaces using something like Claude to literally gather this information and have it hand delivered to you. If it was me, I may or may not go onto Claude and I would have it tell you what are the symptoms of my ideal client, and I would break them down to these categories. I would say, what are the things that she thinks about when she's left alone with herself? What are the things that she believes to be true that are not necessarily correct about her problem? What are the things that she's doing day to day that if I was a fly on the wall, I would typically see? And what are the actions that she's taking currently in an attempt to overcome her problem? All of that will give you specifics. You'll notice I've chunked it down into thoughts, beliefs, behaviors, etc. The reason I do that is because sometimes people in their marketing will only hit on you believe this, you believe that, you believe this, and it feels very one tone. On the contrast, some people will also only talk about what people are doing. They're like, if you're scrolling Instagram looking for inspo, if you are someone who's using AI and it's only about behaviors, If you really want your audience to feel like she knows me, you're going to want to make sure that you have a good variety of all those pillars I mentioned. So we then go into, okay, we have this foundation of we need these symptoms. We need that crystal clear clarity of exactly what it looks like to be inside of her world on a daily basis. But then comes to what I consider to be belief, which is the frame. When you are somebody who doesn't make yourself the obvious choice, it usually means you're only providing value. If I could simplify this into like a one line, the reason someone will consume you and never buy from you is because you're telling them what, but you're never telling them why. And a lot of us here in teaching content that we shouldn't be telling people how, like, don't tell people how, don't tell people how. And actually, in the last little bit, that's been completely flipped on its head because with AI, like newsflash, anyone can figure out the how. So the how is not actually something that you need to be hiding. I give all of my best stuff away. I tell people all the time, if you listen to the podcast and you actually implemented what we teach here, you could easily have a 7-figure business. The insight of why someone's going to work with me or the insight of why someone's going to hire you is not because of the fact of what I teach. I have lots that I teach on here. It's because I give also the why. It's not just about information, it's about insight. And this is where many people are missing the mark. If you are in your value-based content only talking about the what, or you're only talking about the how, the big gap that you're missing that really helps people to want to learn from you and really helps people to want to work with you is the why. So thinking about why is their current approach failing? And most importantly, why will yours work better or work instead? It is not about what, it is not about how, it's about why they shouldn't be doing what they're doing and why they should be working with you. If you can do that and showcase that in every valuable piece that you give, here's the greatest part about it is the person who's watching you, listening to you, reading from you, they're going to still feel like they are getting a lot of information. So I tell people as an analogy, think about when your parents would say, okay, here's what I want you to do. I want you to go do this at school, or I want you to go do this as a chore, or I want you to go do this thing. And they just said, here's what you need to go do. That's the what. Okay. And if they said, okay, I want you to go clean your room. Okay. And here's how I want you to do it. I want you to make your bed. I want you to put all your dirty clothes away. I want you to, etc. That tells us what they want. And it also tells us how they want us to do it. Do you feel convicted to clean your room? No, because there's no why. Why should I clean my room right now? Why do I need to do this in this moment? Why do I even care about cleaning my room? Why does this matter? And so that's when us as the little 8-year-old, we were like, hey, why? 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 And that's because we need to have the full picture to feel mentally invested. So when you want people to be invested with you and with you as a brand, you have to give them the why. Too many of you are out here being like, here's what I want you to do, and here's how you're going to do it. And you're like, great, why do I care? We need to show two things. And this is kind of a little framework that I tell to clients. There's two ways that you can show significance of why. So again, why the current approach is going to fail or why it's going to work if they did it your way instead. That's an easy way. So that's kind of two ways of looking at it there. But I love an easy acronym that I can recall. So I'm going to give this to you in case this is helpful for you. I think about all impact or all of the why, meaning again, why they should care, as two buckets. I think about why in the sense of a implication. So a negative experience that makes them care why. So like why you need to know about this is because if you don't do this, it ends up here somewhere negative, right? So we're looking to have a negative impact on them not doing something or on them doing something. Okay. So that's always like one side is the negative. The other side, so one's implication and the other one is impact. So I say, if I'm going to talk about a why in something that I'm doing, whether it's on this podcast, if it's in, a story I'm doing, in a email that I'm writing, when I have something going out, I ask myself, what's the why in this? Do I want to say a why in the sense of an implication, meaning something negative? Or do I want to show a why in the sense that if they do take action on this or if they do fix it, here's where you could end up. Here's what could be possible. Here's what results could be there. And so that's more of a positive lens on the why. So, as a simple framework, I use implication and impact to be the two ways that I always look to plant seeds of why, so that people really feel that they can see the depth of not just what to care about, how to do it, but also why it's so significant. So, if we think value content traditionally, it basically is here's how to build a content strategy, right? So, here's how to build a marketing strategy, here's how to scale a business. It's just the how. Instead, a kind of more belief rooted piece would be talking about here's why the content strategy you've been taught is built for audience growth and not for conversion. And here's what I look at instead. So, which piece do you want to consume? How to build a content strategy? Or here's why the one that you've been taught is actually built for audience growth and not for conversion. And here's what I look at instead. Again, you'll notice the second example there is more insight. We've got very specific of why they should care. And we also have what it's going to help them to do, which is conversion, right? So this is where, when we talk about marketing is such a big umbrella. Oh my gosh. Marketing is this huge umbrella of media and copy and, pain points and buyer types. There's like a million different ways that we can talk about marketing. But at the real center of all of it, it is messaging. And messaging is something that I will tell you is just as much a science as it is an art. Meaning, when I just outline those two examples to you, you might think, wow, yeah, the second one does sound better, but like, how do I create that? This is why messaging is so important to master. And also why sometimes if we're in just like this rinse and repeat and we're just putting out rep after rep in our marketing we're putting out or in our content, when we're not careful, we kind of go into this slippery slope of just talking the way that we do with clients, which is also why there may not be the demand you're looking for when it comes to your offer. Okay. So then we go into layer 3. Okay. So we've got like the foundations, which is the symptoms. We've got the belief. So that why and the actual understanding of your approach, which is layer 2. So that's like the frame of your house. Now let's fill it in with some walls. Okay. So layer 3 is what I consider to be more of the identity activation. So when you have marketing that goes out that tells someone what to do, we kind of mentioned on this in the demand killers. A lot of people will look at what you'll do with them, but not necessarily who they're going to become. And when we have identity elements, that helps someone to tap into the future version of themselves. So the gap between who somebody is now and who they are capable of becoming. Now, I know when I say this to people for demand, they think, well, I do ClickUp builds. How do I tell someone who they're going to be as a ClickUp build, right? Or I'm somebody who is a podcast editor. How do I show someone the future version of me editing their podcast, right? Because like I'm doing it. The thing that we want to look at is where are they now and where can they be? How can they be operating? How can they be getting results? What could their reality look like if they tapped into that future version of themselves? So I have an incredible team that helps me with this podcast. So I have the absolute pleasure of sitting down, recording, and them basically handling everything else outside of that. So I know this example very well. And when I think about the fact that I could have been sitting here editing my own podcast by myself, which I don't know that I would have been very good at, I would be sitting there and I'd be figuring out and playing with, Descript, and I would be trying to, get automations connected for our ambitious email, and I'd be doing guest reach out, and I would be doing prepping of notes, and I would feel like I was drowning in podcast. I would feel like I was drowning in, work and to-do lists. Now, I want to paint the picture of where I am now. I'm somebody who gets to use this podcast to impact lots of people. I get to have incredible conversations and have you spend this time with me. And I get to do that in a way that allows me to show up each week and say, okay, like what would be valuable for you listening? And what do I feel like can help you this week, help you today? I'm able to connect with more people. I'm able to talk to incredible guests. I'm able to get more content out without necessarily feeling like I have to film 60 different videos every single week individually, which would be a nightmare for me. I'm able to really use this as a tool for impact without it necessarily being something that puts a lot of heavy pressure on me. And that's something that I always wanted. I always wanted to have a podcast years ago. I've wanted to have this for so long. And the reason that I didn't, full transparency, is because I thought about what it would look like to do it on my own. I thought about, what my life would look like to edit it on my own or do guest reach out on my own and all of these things. And I thought, that doesn't excite me. It didn't excite me, all the editing and everything. And then when I had our team come in to like help with, the editing and the production of it, and the Dear Kels team who's producing this, and Kelsey G, so two Kelseys, Kelsey D and Kelsey G on our team, who literally is behind the scenes bringing all of us to life. When I think about that version of how I get to show up versus the version if I did it on my own, it's night and day. So it's like, imagine you could sit down and you could press a button and your studio would turn on and you could sit for 1 hour and you could talk about something that you love or that you're passionate about. And then you turn that button off and you don't have to do anything until the next time that you sit down. Imagine what could happen impact wise with just that 1 hour a week, right? And that's really what I do with this podcast. I sit down, my studio's in my house, and I turn on the button, I record, and it sends off to our team, and everything starts happening after that. And so, one of the things that I'm doing as I'm explaining this to you is I'm painting this picture of who you could become. I'm painting this picture of who you could be, the impact you could have, the reality and what that could look like. And I'm not in that describing, we will edit, we will do this, we will write the show notes, we will create the thumbnail, we will create the tags. Like, you're not getting bought in because of the thumbnail. You're getting bought in because you're like, wow, I could sit down and press a button and talk for 1 hour a week and be able to have this impact within my business. Like, yeah, I want that. Right. So, one example is focused on the future identity of who you could be and who you could become. And the other one is focused on the stuff that's going to come with the service of, for example, a podcast editor. So, you want to look at making the next version of someone so specific that when they stay where they are, it feels like a choice. So this is something that I would say is probably one of the easiest things to put into your marketing, is just asking, how often are you actually planting seeds of who she could become, of what her reality could look like, of what her results could be, of what her day-to-day could shift into becoming, of how her mindset could change, of how her results could change. And ask yourself, how much are you actually talking about activating of her identity consistently? And if you're not talking about the identity component, it is also partially why people are, again, not bought in. And that's because if you're somebody who doesn't feel like you see a future version, you're not going to be bought in on the process that's required to get there. Now, the last of the 4 layers of demand is something that I would consider to be kind of like planting cues for connecting with your offer inside of your marketing. So, one of the things that we need to do is that we need to make sure that the people that want your offer are actually buying it, and that they have an easy path that is so obvious to getting what they want in the way that they want it. So, for example, one of the ways you could do this is what I consider to be process content, which is basically what a week inside of your experience looks like. So, what does it look like to be onboarded with you? What does it look like to get clarity? What does it look like to get results? What does it look like to get a strategy? You want to paint that clear picture of what exactly does it look like to get where this person wants to go? What does it look like to start working with you? The other one is a client journey style. So in your marketing, looking at, not just showcasing your client wins, but again, the full arc of like, talk about where somebody started, talk about what they worked on, where they are now, the results that are possible for them, the realities they wake up with day to day. You also want to talk about objections they have and addressing them before that person ever experiences them. So like, even for me, there's a lot of people that when it comes time for summer, they want to kind of have a more chill summer. They don't really want to be working a lot. They want to maybe even like pull back or step back a little bit when it comes to their business. And so I could literally in my marketing talk about the fact that if you're somebody who's thinking, I like to slow down for the summers, this is for you. Now, she may not have actually said that to me. She may not have gone into my DMs and said, I'm slowing down for the summer. She may just literally be thinking this to herself of like, oh, I wonder if I'm going to slow down this summer again, or I wonder if I should step back a little bit and kind of pull back a bit this summer. If that's something that I know she's thinking, I want to address it. Or if I know she's thinking about the fact of, oh, well, I've done so many masterminds and the last two that I did not get me the outcome that I'm looking for. How is this one going to be any different? I would put up a post saying, for the woman who's done 3 masterminds and said to herself, she swears she'll never join a mastermind again. This is for you. Right? So it really helps people to see, oh, she's in my head. She knows what I'm thinking. She knows what I'm experiencing. And also, you want to acknowledge that the price aspect and anchoring price and also anchoring levels of access, right? So like for my private coaching, it is not a small investment. And I always like acknowledge that to people. I'm not going to minimize and be like, "Oh, it's not that much." It's not a small investment. I have a lot of incredible private clients that I work with, and it's not a small investment, and I've acknowledged this to all of them. But here's what I also want to say. The price is something that I have anchored in my marketing. I've talked about the fact that my private coaching is not the cheapest coaching you can get on the internet. I've talked about the fact that this is not for the person who's just looking for more information. I've talked about why, without saying directly, here's why my private coaching is the price it is. I've actually acknowledged the kind of people that are inside, the kind of results, the kind of things we talk about, and the outcomes that are possible with the people who are inside that offer. So when you think about price, people will say, Kate, do I need to put my price online? Should I be telling people my price? You don't ever want to justify your price. You want to anchor in understanding of what kind of people are paying that price, what kind of results are happening when people spend that much, what kind of problems get solved when someone spends that much. That's what we're looking to plant in the marketing, not, here's why you should be spending minimum X on this service, right? So we're not justifying, we're planting seeds of the possibility of what they could generate, become, solve, establish as a result of investing your rate. So I should wait maybe until things slow down or things are more calm in the business to move. I want you to speak to that in your marketing, say it out loud and acknowledge it. Or I already know what I need. I feel like I just need to implement it. Show her why she needs support. Like what I tell people is, and this maybe is not your style of delivery, so you don't have to say it this way. This is how I would say it. When I have someone come to me and they say, well, like I have lots of information. I've done lots of programs. Like I'm trying to understand like if I need more information. I feel like I just need to implement the stuff that I've learned. And what I tell people is if you just needed to implement the things that you learned, you would have already done it by now. And if you don't have time to implement the things that you have learned, you want to ask yourself why that is. Do you have a solution to create capacity to implement? So if it's because I haven't had time to implement, that's a problem to fix. 2, if you have stuff you haven't implemented, why? And 3rd, if you're implementing things and you're like, well, it hasn't been working for the last 3 to 6 months, but I'm really hoping things are going to turn. At what point do you need more evidence to say that the thing that you're doing is not getting the outcome that you want? So it's speaking to the things that you know that they're thinking, feeling, experiencing in their world right now and actually calling those out within your marketing. So what we want to do, again, remember, it's going to go back to the beginning of these 4 key things to build demand. Number 1, and these are going to be maybe an auditing way for yourself. You need to be speaking about the specific symptoms, not somebody's problem. Ask yourself, how specifically are you actually hitting on somebody's symptoms each day within your marketing, not just here's your problem. 2, you need to shift their belief. Don't teach them what, don't teach them how. Make sure you are not delivering information, but you're delivering insight. So again, help to shift belief patterns, not just necessarily saying, here's your behavior. This will be your behavior now. Tell them why. Make sure that we're hitting on insight, not just information. 3rd, activate the identity. Do not tell them what you are going to do. Tell them who they're going to become. Don't tell them what you're going to do. Tell them who they're going to become. Tap into that future identity. Who is the person that they are going to become? And lastly, actually acknowledge your offer and objections. Acknowledge the process of getting started with you, the process of working with you. Acknowledge the journey of what it looks like to go from starting with you to finishing with you. Acknowledge the objections and resistances that they have. Acknowledge the fact that the people who pay the prices your clients pay actually have results to show for it. And here's why. right? Their perspective, what were the beliefs they had, the things that they overcame, the behaviors they shifted. This is where you're going to see the real impact. Now, auditing questions here for you, rapid fire. Number 1, when did you last post naming the exact lived experience of your ideal client? Not this is your problem, not if you're someone looking to scale. I'm talking about the moments, the day-to-day beliefs, thoughts, perspectives, behaviors, realities that they're experiencing. When was the last time you did that? Look back on last week's, maybe the last 5-7 days of things you've posted. How many of those are granular about their experience? 2, how many times in the last 7 days can you actively see that you mentioned your offer by name? And just take a quick second if you had to count how many times in the last 7 days have you actively acknowledged and spoken the name of your offer? Third, if someone was to binge your last 20 posts on any given marketing platform, would they know what you sell, why it's different, or would they just see you as really valuable, really an expert at what you talk about, or really clearly has expertise? And lastly, which demand layer of these 4 is your content heaviest in? So, of all the content and marketing that you put out, which of these 4 would you say is the one that you're more dominant in? Okay. Is it symptoms? Is it the identity? Is it the fact that somebody, has more of the actual understanding of the process and the reality of what it's like to work with you? Is it the why, the insight? So ask yourself really quickly, if I had to audit the last week of my marketing, I think most of mine are blank. Okay. Which one would you say is most lacking inside of your marketing? So is it, I don't really talk about my offer. I don't help them talk about their identity of who they'll become. I don't talk about X. What are those pieces that we need to have in there? Which one are you lacking? So today we discussed what actually demand is, what could be killing your demand, and 4 different things to integrate in order to generate more demand within your marketing today. I want to be really clear that if you are somebody who feels like you've got people watching, you've got people engaging, you've got people circling, but you don't have that translating into clients or customers, you likely do not have a sales problem, meaning it's not about your calls, it's not about your DMs, it's not even about your audience, and it's not about the algorithm. It's about the fact that you have not created demand within your audience. You have not created demand in people working with you. You have only actually given value, information, or put a call to action up and called it selling. This is something that you need to create and build that fire within your audience, within your community, to bring people to the front of your, storefront and say, "Hey, I'm ready to buy." The demand is the thing that's going to generate that for you. And I can tell you, if you integrate these pieces, you want to remember you already have the offer. You already made a great offer. You already have an incredible offer. You don't need a new one. You don't have to go make something new because the current one's not selling. You have to ask yourself, am I actually creating demand? And if you're not, I want you to be intentional about taking these pieces here and go and execute this, because I can guarantee you something. If you go and you actually apply these into your forward-facing marketing, you're going to see a shift. You are going to see people actually start to come out of the woodwork, actually start to be interested, actually start to look at, your offer, asking about your offer, clicking on your offer, messaging you, booking calls. This is what happens when you create demand. So, you've got your marching orders, and I hope today was helpful for you when it comes to activating your audience and creating more demand for your offer. As per usual, if you are somebody that has questions, comments, things you want to share, and you're like, "Oh my God, I realized I'm not doing any of these 4," or maybe you're like, "I only do one of the 4 and I need the other 3," or maybe you were just missing one and you're like, "Why did I not think about integrating that?" As always, my DMs are open to chat with you. So if you are somebody that has anything you want to share, takeaways, things you're excited to implement, you know that it actually means the world to me to chat with you guys in the DMs. I get messages from a few of you every single week about what just kind of landed on the episode, what were some of your core takeaways, things that are really resonating with you. And I will tell you, it means a lot to be able to hear kind of what light bulbs for you, and also to hear some of the things you share about things that you're integrating, what's been working, and what you're excited to integrate next. So, all that being said, my DMs are always open if you guys need any support in any way. But we will see you on next week's episode. And with that being said, as always, stay ambitious.